morning, church. There's two separate reading scriptures. So the first one is Acts 7, verses 1 through 2. It says, "And the high priest said, 'Are these things so?' And Stephen said, 'Brothers and fathers, hear me. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran.'" The second scripture is Acts 15, verse 36. "And after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, 'Let us return and visit to the brothers in every city where we proclaim the word of the Lord and see how they are.'" Thank you.
Good morning. I realised when Abraham's video popped up to do the Lord's Supper, I'm like, I forgot to introduce him. And so I realised there'll be some here this morning who haven't met Abraham and Rachel and didn't know who he was. Actually, I'm just going to ask for a show of hands. Who has been at Otamotai for 5 years or less? 5 years or less. Stick your hands up so we can see. Yeah. Keep your hands up. Who's been here 10 years or less? Keep your hands up, first group. Okay, yeah, that's a good number. A good number. And so we have prepared Missions Month, which is what we do every year for, I don't know, the last 7, 8 years we've been doing this. But in preparing for Missions Month, we didn't even think about, well, there's a good number here in the family who have got no idea what Missions Month is all about, where did it come from, and what's it all about. And just like, oh, okay. It just so happens this week we didn't quite have a sermon ready, so this is it. We're going to take a little journey just to discover what our Missions Month is all about. Connor just read from Acts 7, and in Acts 7 Stephen's on trial, and he gives an account for what he believes and what he's doing, but he goes all the way back and starts with the father of the nation of Israel to tell the story as to why he is where he is today. Paul does, I can't remember, 7 or 9 speeches, sermons in Acts, and 3 times in those he goes all the way back to his beginning as a Christian and recounts that story to explain why he's where he is today and what's happening. Now, I don't pretend that today's got anything to be like Stephen or Paul. But for us as a church to understand what our missions is all about, I just think it's very good for us to go back to the beginning. And let's look at where we came from and what we're all about. We use the term South Pacific Focus Program. Now, that doesn't get used a whole lot in public, and so you may hear that and think, where did that come from? That's just the name that got put on to our missions ministry by the people who did that at the time. So we might talk about missions ministry, or you might hear us say South Pacific Focus Program, SPF. That's the two are the same. So where did this all begin? Otamotai as a congregation started in 1976, I believe, and met at the little hall round on Levers Road for some time, and then acquired and purchased a building at 258 Ngatai Road. You may not recognise that, but the one on the bottom left is kind of the back part in here. This is these premises before any alterations took place. And there's an old picture there, I think that's Terry Brown preaching in the early days. And some of us, like some of you were here, Some of us, like the Millers and the Rains, came in 1982, and this is kind of what it looked like when we first turned up in the early 80s. Next year is the 50th anniversary for Otamotai. And so that's the first week of August, first weekend, okay? So I'm sure then we'll unpack a whole lot more of our history and journey. Some of the founding families back then are on the left-hand side, right-hand side, the Scott Seniors, and then the Harnett family, the Scott Juniors. The Lewis family came in a little bit later on, so this photo was from a little bit later on, and then the Craig family. They were part of the original families here at Otamotai. Is that right, Lorna? Very good. Okay, got facts right. Now, most of those men, not all, but most of those men had had an experience at what was called the Tauranga, I think the Tauranga Bible School over at Brereton. And then after that started Otamotai. And somewhere around the late 70s was the discussion that we need an ongoing Bible college to train New Zealanders for church ministry and to help lead churches. And so that discussion began in the late 70s and came into fruition in 1982 with the opening of the South Pacific Bible College, although it had a different name back then, South Pacific School of Biblical Studies or something like that. And for 20 years, the college actually ran out of these premises here. And actually, what I forgot to say at the beginning is this journey is really all about God opening doors and people being responsive to God being at work. And one of the doors that opened up after 20 years of operating here was for the Bible College to move up the road and get their own premises. And over 40-something years of the college, it's gone through changes, iterations, and developments. And one of those is from being a Bible college that was just for New Zealanders to help train people lead churches in New Zealand, to slowly people coming in from other countries and other cultures. And the first big group coming from other cultures was from Fiji. And so those that were here back in those days remember there was just a chain of Fijians coming through for about a decade or maybe a little bit longer, and then them training and going back to Fiji as well. Around the same time, God opened up a door for this couple, Lloyd Bixler and his wife, to come visit. I think this was 1985. And Lloyd had just developed a program called the Worldwide Bible School. And what set this program of studies, correspondence studies, apart from other things was he tried to develop it not from his culture perspective, he came from Colorado in the States, but how would this work out in the world in different cultures? And so he tried to adapt or prepare or develop this material with Indigenous peoples in mind. And I don't know how this happened, but he came into contact here at Otamotai, and those early founders here looked at that and thought, this is good stuff. And so we became here at Otamotai an office of the Worldwide Bible School, and there was correspondence courses up and down the country in the early 80s. With the coming of the large group from Fiji to train and go home, there was the exporting of Worldwide Bible School to Fiji. And what happened was a couple of ads go in the papers over in Fiji and Suva and maybe Lutoka and Nandi. What's up north? I've forgotten that one. Anyway, thank you. And within a month or two, there was 1,000 people enrolled. And it was like, what do we do? And it was a group sitting down discussing, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? How are we going to manage this? And that really is the beginning of the partnership which forms what we call today South Pacific Focus Program, or our missions group. And the partnership is with us here as a congregation, bringing people in and training them, partners in the USA, providing the material, but later on, financial resources to help with some of these workers, and then, of course, Indigenous preachers at this stage from Fiji. So that's really how God had worked through various channels just to bring about our missions program here at Otamotai. Again, nothing clever that the people of those days decided on. It's just God opened doors, and people chose to walk through and respond to those things. So that's probably, this is the next part of that. As more and more graduates go back to Fiji, and as those correspondence courses grow and grow and grow, it's just not practical to run it from here. So the Worldwide Bible School office got moved over and established there in Fiji, and different ones who are from Fiji running those programs, running that office for the next 10 years or perhaps 15 years. So that's really, if you like, the first 10 years of how we as a congregation got involved with international missions. The next phase was basically to duplicate what was happening in Fiji with what was going to happen in Tonga. Around this time, there was a church in California. They had been involved with the Tongan church for, I don't know, a decade or more. This is before my time, so I'm not exactly too sure. But they actually came knocking on Otamotai's door and said, look, we're 5,000 miles away, and this is what they said. As a culture, Californian culture, we do not understand Polynesian culture. We've tried and tried and tried, but we don't get it. You are training these people to go up into the islands, and so let's form a relationship. And so we began a relationship with the Riverside Church in California, and they helped provide funds to bring in families to train, go back to Tonga, be in full-time work, and also run the Worldwide Bible School there in Tonga. So that's kind of the second phase, if you like. The third phase, which is what most of us are more familiar with, is how that just spreads through other South Pacific islands, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and then, of course, more recently, up into Asia, and even across to South America. And so South Pacific Focus Program, Otamotai's mission program, is essentially a partnership that we at Otamotai have with some USA funders. Back in the early phases, I mean, I don't remember the exact amount, but I mean, there was, I think we had 5 or 7 people full-time in ministry in Fiji, Tonga, Papua New Guinea. God closed the doors for those partners, and so we're not able to fully support any of these workers anymore. But we're into the third phase where at least we can work alongside them. So, what is it that drives us? What do we believe? What we believe is that the local people, the Indigenous people, are the ones who are best to lead the church in their own countries. Now, there are a lot of us in this room who probably would not be here without missionaries coming from one culture into another culture to help plant, establish, and grow the church. And so the validity and the value of that is enormous, because some of us owe our faith to that. But there becomes a time where things need to pass on to the next generation and to the locals, and that's where we see our role is to work with those who are from their own cultures, and we believe that's what's best or needed long-term for the growth of the kingdom in those areas. So that's kind of our underlying belief and philosophy. What do we do? All right, what we do is summed up in discipling, training, educating, all done in a relational environment. So students come into the Bible college, from all of these different cultures. They're here for 1 year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years, but they do it in the context of being a part of this church family. And you've probably heard this before, but I'll say it again. When the graduates go home, they say, we have learnt as much by being at Otamotai as we have sitting in the Bible college. So what we do as a church family is pivotal in helping our partners go home to their own countries and to be able to engage in ministry and mission in their own back doorstep. So it's done within the relationship of this church family. So that's what we do. Is that the same slide? Okay, I have duplicated this slide. So what we do is help provide support. Now, back in the early days, there was a lot of support. We're not in a position to provide full-time support for these workers. What we do is just a token to help support them in their ministries. Perhaps more importantly, we visit. Who likes to have a visit? It's nice to be visited, isn't it? And these people that we know, the graduates we send home, the brothers and sisters that have been a part of us for several years, are often working in churches where they are leading. They have no mentors. They've got no one to go get advice and counsel from. And so to physically be there to visit is just so encouraging for them. Occasionally they like the mentoring, okay? They like us to be able to speak into their lives and help them with the different things they're doing. And over the years, many seminars at churches dotted right across the map that you saw. Seminars to help just with general Bible knowledge, seminars to help with evangelizing, seminars to help with leadership. Mary's got a wonderful program going out helping them equip to train in children's education. And so all sorts of different things are going on through these churches in terms of coming alongside and providing seminars for them. So that is a summary of who we are, where we come from, and what we do. Essentially, it's a partnership that we at Otamotai have, still with a few remaining donors in the United States, and training up people and sending them home so in their environment they get to be a part of helping the kingdom of God grow. But wait, there's more. So that sums up what our Missions Month is all about, and that sums up what we have put as a target for our missions contribution for next year. But there is more that goes on. Beyond that, there are periodic things that will come up. And this is broader than what we at Otamotai can help with. We rely a lot on partners to do this. But occasionally there are church structures, church buildings that can be helpful for the brethren, in this case in Tonga, to get their own premises. So we work with partners in the States to get that building up and running and functioning. We have a lot of disasters. Back when the Christchurch earthquake happened, we had two partners in the States. They weren't partners, they became partners. They approached us, hey, how can we help? And so we helped facilitate aid to Christchurch. Back when the tsunami hit American Samoa, I think David was the spearhead for that, and no, who was? Yeah. So there's a few here in the congregation who just spearheaded, hey, we want to go help the brethren in American Samoa, and I believe you were the first foreign aid group to arrive in American Samoa. Fiji and Tonga has cyclones and volcanoes and all sorts of natural disasters. So again, over the years, you know, we've been involved in helping out in some of those projects. David went to Suva and helped with a community project, and I think next week you're going to talk a little bit about next year's mission trips and some more that's got planned along those lines. visiting with Bobby's church, helping do a building extension and run children's programs. And not everything's perfect. Mistakes are made. And sometimes we embark or help embark with our partners on projects that actually don't work out. We're not perfect. and things don't always work out, but we try to respond to the call of God with all of these different opportunities. So, next Sunday is our designated mission contribution, and I'd just like to ask you to be praying for that. Think about what you would like to contribute to be a part of our mission effort with these partners in these different places. And with that, I will close this part of the service and